And good morning. How are you? How was your weekend? It is the last Monday of January already. It's amazing how time is just flying by. Um, we're just looking at the days, just zoom and zoom and zoom. And so, I'm looking at, well, what am I going to talk about today that may make a difference to some people? And, I came up with this word, and actually, I had to be honest, I had already prepared another word, totally another word to deal with today. So I'll do that one on Wednesday. I forgot to turn my phone off, so I'm multitasking this morning. I apologize for that. Um, but I'm having a time with this word, and I happened to be looking through some information on the internet, and I saw pictures of what this word would kind of denote, and I said, "Ooh, that just seems so interesting." The word is Invictus. Invictus, Invictus. It's such an awesome word, and basically it means that you're unconquered. You're unconquered. So you can think of some people in your lifetime that may have been just unconquered individuals. No matter what came their way, they never let go of who they were, what they were all about, what they stood for. um, and so, I'm going to let you all decide who that may be in your lifetime, or even for yourselves if you've handled everything that's come your way. Um, that's wonderful, but some of us, we crumble. We crumble at the first thing that says that, it's against us. And, Invictus says, I will stand. I will stand despite. I will fight on. I will continue being who I am, representing what I need to represent. So, Nelson Mandela was an Invictus personality. And I'm trying to wait till some more people come in to talk about what Invictus really means. Um, Not just unconquered. It's not just unconquered. Unconquered is one of the, certainly descriptions of the word Invictus, but many of us are Invictus. Many of us have handled some horrible things. Like, to me, if you've lived through, just a war, if you're much older and you've lived through war, if you've lived through, poverty, if you've lived through discrimination, there's so many things that really set us up to say that we are Invictus people. So, Invictus really talks about it being unconquered, but also undefeated. A lot of times, we you see people and they may put up the red flag. I mean the white flag, to say I've had enough, I'm done. A person with an Invictus personality say, I'm going down with it. I'm gonna stand up again with it when it comes back around. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be a part of this opportunity to say that I've made it through. Can you imagine being, someone like Nelson Mandela, who spent years and years and years in prison over his, basically speaking out against apartheid. And when he came out, not only was his spirit there, but was stronger than the spirit he went into prison with. So sometimes the longer we stay in something that we believe, the more involved we become in it, and the more I would say pulled down in the ground with cement on it, we will not move. We will not move. So let's talk a little bit about Invictus. So it says that, and I have a poem. So before I get to the meaning and when it was written and everything, and who originally wrote something about this whole word of Invictus, um, it was actually written, and I'm looking at the poem now. It's written by William Ernest Henley. William Ernest Henley. And William Ernest Henley says that out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole. I thank whenever God's may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. It's beautiful. But the title of that, and some of us have probably heard, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Those are probably the two most famous lines out of the poem, but they didn't know the poem was probably of what it was entitled, which is called Invictus. So that's what we're talking about this morning, Invictus. Are you an Invictus spirit, an Invictus personality? I am. Been through some tough stuff, but I'm still standing, still here, still trying to rally for myself and others who need, to know that there is somebody around that will rally. But anyway, when it talks about the word Invictus, it says meaning unconquerable or undefeated in Latin, and it was written in 1875 by William Ernest Henley. So it says that we break the word down, and it talks about it being unquested, unsubdued, invincible, undisputed, undefeated. To me, it's a powerful word, because many times we need something to say that we can stay if we give ourselves the authorization to do so. We don't have to say, I'm going to run away. We can say, nope, I'm here. I'm going to stay. I'm here. I'm planted. I'm planted where I need to be. So I ask anybody that comes into my sessions, are you stuck? Are you stuck sometimes trying to figure out, should I stay or should I go? Should I remain faithful on what it is that I believe and consistent on what it is that I do? How do I do that? You just have to sometimes just do it. You can't even ask anybody. Sometimes I think I talked about this before, we kind of move with people that move like us. But sometimes where they're moving isn't really where you want to go, but you move with the people. What if you just stayed on what you believed on, stand on it, feel that you're invincible? So that's my first letter is I, and my first word for I in Invictus is invincible. I want to be as invincible as I can for whatever the causes that I believe in. So I talk about an invincible says too powerful to be defeated or overcome. And I think a lot of times we get fearful when we think somebody is coming after us. We do. Good morning, Erica. How are you? Today our word is Invictus. Invictus. Good word, solid word. It's the word that says I'm going to stay around as long as I can. I'm going to fight on. I'm going to continue doing what I need to do to go forward. And as I said, I love the last words of the poem written by William Ernest Henley says, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. When we think about the things that we've stood for over the years, sometimes we have to stand up against people that we work with, or even for the salary that we're being paid, or for the positions that we hold in outside of a work situation. It may be at church. It may be, it may be in a school setting. It may be in a community setting. Sometimes we just have to stand up. How do we do it? How do we do it if we feel that we are not Invictus, or we're not, invincible? Invincible says that we are invulnerable. We're not going to worry about what you say or do to us. We're indestructible. We're unassailable. We're unbeatable. We're unflinching, unbending, and unshakable. I always think about when they talk about the joy we have. If you're persons that believe in God, the higher power for me, it says that I have unshakable joy. I have unshakable faith, unshakable. Ain't gonna move. I am what I am. I am who I am. Not gonna move on it. And I believe that I'm going to have some support from whatever my higher power is going to give me. Good morning, Miss Rosie. How are you doing? Good to see you. Independent. I love it. Independent. Yes, indeedy. Unconcerned or non-concerning of others. Just you. That would be independence. Wonderful, wonderful. We move on in the word of Invictus. My N in Invictus is for noticeable. People will notice you when you do not form, or flow or move into the collective group and you happen to be by yourself. People sometimes pay attention. You become more noticeable. So in this instance, obviously, if you were and had been, exactly, that's a good word for that. If you had been somebody like Nelson Mandela, who just said, I don't care what you all are going to stand for, and let them beat you down and decide that what we have doesn't matter, and that we don't deserve to have any rights. I believe differently. And in my belief, I said that this is what needs to be done. So he became noticeable because he was outspoken. He stood on what he believed. He stood on it. So noticeable in this instance says easily seen or noticed, clear or apparent, distinguishable. Eventually, you knew him just like you knew Dr. Martin Luther King. You knew him. You knew who he was. You knew who and what he stood for. And there's just so many others. You knew people like, Eleanor Roosevelt. You knew people who stood on what they believed in, which made them noticeable. And in some instances, probably considered to be invictus personalities because they would not move off of what they believed in. And sometimes that's how we have to stand. We have to take a stance. It's sometimes very difficult for us to take a stance. So noticeable also says that they might have been prominent. People become prominent sometimes because the stance is so off the Richter scale from the traditional, from the norm. Okay, they become noticeable, prominent, observable, perceptible. They're letting you know these are my precepts. Prominent, to the point of obviousness. You cannot see them. They're visible. Okay. It says they're detectable and they're discernible, meaning they're not trying to be hidden. They want you to know who they are and what they're all about. And so invincible is for my I, noticeable is for my N in Invictus. My V, the one that Sandy put down, Winnie, what'd you put down for yours, or what would you put? I have victorious, because a lot of times people are victorious not because they left, but because they stayed. Even when you're dealing with for me, and I speak to myself, when you're dealing with, I'm going to run on, and even that's in the Bible. I'm going to run on and see what the end's going to be. I got to stay. I have to. I'm committed. I'm committed to doing this. So Victoria says is that eventually having won a victory, being triumphant. It says being one who conquers, one who put themselves in a position to win, one who feels successful, one who has decided that they want to land on being a champion, and being unconquered versus conquered versus basically surrendering. They don't want to do it. And so they stay around and they become invictus in how they look at being invincible, looking at being noticed, whether they like it or not, and being victorious because they stood to the end. And sometimes even when the result, the initial result, puts you, in a position where you might be imprisoned, or you might be, certainly talked about and isolated, exiled, whatever. Eventually, if it is meant to be, you will watch it become the victory. You will watch it become your victory. The next word I have is indestructible. For my eye, my second eye, indestructible. And indestructible is not able to be destroyed. Not able to be destroyed. Valor. Oh, valor is really good. Oh my God, that's a great word. A great word. How many people would we consider, that they were valor. They wore valor. They were. So many people who fought wars and, died for their countries, that would be considered valor, or they came back, John McCain, they came back where they were wounded and had been prisoners of war, but they still came back and they still fought. They still were there for the purpose. They would be considered men of valor, or women, because there's so many women that also did it too. It's not just a man thing, it's a woman's thing too. Sometimes, I think that if we've, seen, mothers who have buried their children and they're still here, you have to say that there's some valor in that, but there's certainly some invictusness to that. The fact that they still standing, still there, still trying to make sense of what happened, but living their lives nonetheless, standing tall, invincible, always there, always available. So the indestructible talks about it being, the next word, not able to be destroyed, unbreakable. How many of us are unbreakable? And sometimes we may break down only to be built back up. Will we become indestructible? We may have to go down and get some more resources on us, because sometimes the life you live is a better life as you go forward, because it gives you the down, so you don't always have up. It gives it to you, so you know how to deal. The next time this comes around, I'm ready for it. I'm ready. So the indestructible talks about being unbreakable, shatterproof, toughened. How many of us have been toughened up by some of the things we've been through? Sturdy, durable, resistant, lasting. I know many a mother, when I used to do counseling for women, they would fall apart only to realize when their husbands were deployed, only to come back and there was a struggle, because the woman had been placed in the position of ownership of taking care of the family. And when the husband re-entered, then we had to have a session bringing the family back together, because the roles sometimes were struggled to change. That's how life is sometimes. So when we talk about things being indestructible, we sometimes realize when we come back up better than we were before. Better. My C in Invictus is for champion. How many of us have been champions for certain things, certain causes? I can just think of so many men and women who have become champions on the things that they believe, fighting, against, Alzheimer's, and trying to make sure that, more people understand what happens once people end up with that disease, or it might be breast cancer or other cancers, champions. They're champions. Either they've gone through it themselves and they have it, or they champion the fact that trying to help other people who get it, or other people to, be in the position of heading towards research. That why, how do we stay away from getting it? That's our lives. So champion is a person who fights. They fight, they argue for the cause or on behalf of someone else. So it could be a big cause, or it could be just for somebody that you're working with, somebody that you love, somebody that you care about. So it says in that basically you're supporting the cause and you're doing it as a person who defends. You're defending what it is that you believe is best for them and even for yourself. Yes, Erica. Yeah, they keep pushing down some of the pages. Independent, yes, honestly. When we move on in the word, of champion, we talk about the champion being the advocate. Let's face it. If you have somebody that's out there championing something for you, they are they're advocating for you. They're promoting for you. They're supporting. They're backing. It says that they are basically the bearer, the standard bearer in that area. They want things to change. They want things to happen so that there will be a better tomorrow for someone else. And maybe even if you're the person doing the fighting, you'll be able to see it as something victorious. You'll see it at the end where you are part of that. You're a part of that movement. There's so many people who probably can say that they've been a part of movements over the years. And, every once in a while, I get a chance to talk to somebody that's experienced something that I've never experienced. And I'm in awe because it seems like what they went through was absolutely horrendous, but they made it through. They made it through. My T in Invictus is triumph. How many of us are looking at triumph? Triumph says a great victory of achievement. A great victory of achievement. It's victorious. It's winning. It's successful. It's prize winning. It's conquering. It's being undefeated, and it's being unbeaten. That's many of us. We've been through some things that we can say that we passed through and we made it to the other side. Made it to the other side, still here. Cancer survivor, but I'm still here. Still here. Born a preemie, still here. So sometimes we have to rally in and get excited about what we've been brought through. We've been through the fire and we come out on the other side where we're doing so much better than what we were doing. When we move on in our word, my U is for unconquered. I'm not going to let you get me down. Unconquered. It says incapable of being conquered, meaning I'm going to stand as long as I can stand, because even sometimes, you see sometimes when they portray pictures and they say even when someone looks like they've lost things, they've won, because even though they can't carry it on, it's passed on to somebody else who believes in it just as well as the person who may have, passed on. The idea passed on as well, that this is something to believe in, something to be concerned about, something that looked at as needing to be triumphed. So I love that word. I want to say that I've been here long enough to say that I was able to be triumphant in something or some things. My U in Invictus is unconquered. Unconquered, incapable of being conquered. And I'm hoping that you're looking at how all of these words are relatable. They're very relatable. They're connected. They're connected, but it also expands your vocabulary as you look at the word. Invictus, nobody ever probably said, well, that's a word to look up. As I said, I saw that picture. I saw the picture of Nelson Mandela, and then I followed what was the notes that were underneath his picture, and it talked about that word of being invictus, meaning you may try to take my livelihood away and certain things away from me, but I still stand for what I believe in. I am Invictus. It's really a cool concept. Unconquered says that that basically it's your will, impregnable, indefeasible, indomitable, secure, resistant, unbeatable. Those adjectives are great because they are very much describing who somebody like Nelson Mandela was. No matter what, you can take my life away by putting me in isolation for years and years and years. But it never took away what he thought. It never took away his beliefs. Never did. Never, ever did. I wonder, could we withstand that kind of treatment? You know, sometimes I ask myself when I look at what some people have been through. I've been through some things, but not torturous, not isolation. Because, you know, isolation for me would probably be a bad thing because I'm very social, very, very social. But that would be tough. My S for today is success. And success just says just what it is, you know, aiming to be at the top of the game, completing the distance of whatever that may be, deciding that I'm over the line, I've achieved something. So it is a level of achievement. It is looking at, you know, the honor that you've made for yourself, the excitement of having completed a task that says that I am who I am, regardless of what anybody else thinks or does. I've made it this far. I am successful. So for those who finish school, they finish, you know, certifications and licensure. They, you know, they may be first time driving a car. All those, all those are periods of success, you know, and they may have their own scale in terms of how big they are to you. But to me, each time you cross and, you know, a line of success, then you have to feel Invictus, or you should feel it, that I've made it to the point where not only did I stay to the end, but at the end I was successful. I passed it. I have achieved a level that I didn't think I could do, you know, and I am the person that says I made it. I made it. You know, I'm hoping that you all are going to make it today. I am. I am. I'm hoping that you would find something Invictus and look at it for your own purpose, your own success. Look at it so that you can say that I've been invincible towards it. I've made myself noticeable. I'm victorious at it. I'm indestructible. I've campaigned. I'm a champion. I am looking at the idea that I am, you know, triumphant. And lastly, I'm unconquered for my success. That's what I want you to know today from Are You Stuck? Not really, because I have some other words that I picked up today. Invictus is one of them. Listen, have a wonderful, wonderful day. If you don't do anything else, just go ahead and hit that share button and let people know that there's somebody out there just wanting to share a little words with them that they can add to their vocabulary and be in almost anyone's conversation. All right. Have a wonderful day. Be safe. And I'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Have a good day.